All right, well, taking a single line or a single word is all very well, but actually in practice what we would often quite like to do is to take a list and do this repeatedly. We want to split the list into chunks. For example, split a list of a text into its lines. That's not just taking the first line, but taking the first line and the next line and the next line. So this take while function has a partner function, drop while, indeed. So drop while has a very similar looking definition, and what I think I'll do is I won't define it because it's not really terribly exciting. Let me just see, is it in scope? I don't think it is. Oh, I'm wrong, it is in scope, it's part of the prelude. I don't have to import it from data.list, which I was thinking I might have to do. So by drop while, all the things which are less than 10 from the list of 1 to 20, then I throw away all those things. Whereas if I, instead of drop while, I did a take while, I get the other part of the list. Okay, so these are very handy functions, and actually there are a couple of other functions which group these things together. One is called span. And that actually does the split. It does the drop and the take. And there's a converse version of that. I think it's called break, that I'll mention, that takes the negation of the predicate. So span, the break is defined to be the span of the not. Break of P is the span of not P.
What happens if we use span for greater than 10 and break for less than 10?
Well, the question really then amounts to what happens when we do take while for a predicate which is immediately false, or a predicate which is applied to the empty list. The result in both cases will be the empty list. So if we do break less than 10, there are no elements. Sorry, the first element is already, let me do it with span, it's a bit easier to understand. If I want to take all the elements greater than 10 first, and then the rest, all the elements which are greater than 10 is the empty list, and the rest is the whole thing. Okay, but never mind, I'm not going to use span and break for this example. I just wanted to mention that they're there. I'll just stick with take while and drop while, and use them to define how we might split something into lines. We looked at the example of unlines using fold. What about lines? Splitting our verse into each of its lines. So lines, it's a predefined thing, so I'll call it lines prime for now. We want to split a text into its lines. What I want to do, well, if it's an empty text, then there are no lines. If it's a non-empty text, well, I don't actually need to name them. Let's just say we're happy to know that it's non-empty. I want to take a line. I've got a function for that, but let's suppose I didn't have a function for that. It wasn't a very general function. We're going to take while not equal to the new line character from, that will be the first line. Okay, so we've got the first line. Now we need to put that on the front of the rest of the lines. Do it down here so we don't run out of space. So what does the rest look like? Well, we're going to need to throw away the ones that we've, the first line, to compute the rest. So we're going to use a drop while with the same predicate, and we're going to do recursion on that. Okay, how does that look? Roughly, probably something like that. Okay, what happens if we run it? Okay, run that on our verse. Oh, it goes horribly wrong. I have to do Control-C twice on the Emacs version. What was the first element of that? Let me just have a look. Let's take the head of that. Okay, so the first thing was okay, but then it goes completely mad. Why does it go mad? We take the first line, so the rest of the list starts with what? Taking the first line, what does the rest of the list start with? It starts with a new line character. So what happens when we do Dropwhile on the something which starts with a new line character? It doesn't actually do anything, right? It doesn't throw anything away. What we wanted to throw, well, sorry, it does throw everything away. It throws everything away except for the new line character. We actually want to get rid of the new line character before we start on processing the next line. We need to throw away the new line character. What's a function that will throw away the first character of a list? Yeah, there is a drop function. There's also a tail function, is that it can fail. Tail can fail. If there's no tail of a list, it crashes. But instead, if we use drop one, it's a way of throwing away an element from a list which doesn't fail. If you give it the empty list, it just graciously gives you the empty list back. So drop one is the guy that we want to use here. It's a safe version of tail. And let's just have a quick check on that guy. And then we do indeed split this into our list of lines.